in the UK, in Italy, in France, in Greece, in Belgium, in Austria. So we're well broadly spread. How did we set about achieving these goals? So once we had our collaboration, we established 4 demonstrator projects, citizen science demonstrator projects on the Zooniverse platform, which is a world-leading platform in the field of online citizen science, has more than 1 million users, has a wealth of experience and background for us to draw on. And we had the benefit of having Oxford University as one of the partners in the collaboration, which enabled us to incorporate directly into our project team and our research teams for the different demonstrator projects, the experience of members of the Zooniverse management team. So we took, to set up these 4 projects, we focused on 4 different frontier science fields. We took data from each of them and developed projects around them. So here we see an image of the Virgo gravitational wave detector, which is based not far from where I'm speaking to you in Pisa. You see the Monte Pisano in the background, and we set up, using the data from Virgo, we set up the Gwitch Hunters project, and this was developed by principally by Massimiliano, who will join us for the roundtable shortly, but also with other various researchers from the University of Pisa, along with us at EGO. And in Gwitch Hunters, Massimiliano will be able to tell you about this in more detail later. But we essentially ask volunteers to help us to classify, to categorize and identify various types of glitch, which are transient noise features that we find in our data from the Virgo detector, and which we have to, for us, are noise, and we have to filter out of the out of our data sets, because they can block our field of view, let's say, in looking for the actual gravitational wave signals. So volunteers are presented with various glitch examples, and they're asked to classify into specific classes. I mean, they're taught how to recognize these different classes and so on. There's a lot of information in the various instructions and field guides. And and one particularly nice feature that we've added in the projects is that we have also asked them to, once they classify a glitch, we've asked them to begin to help us identify the source of that glitch. So we will present a figure in a glitch figure in our strain channel, in our which is used to actually in which we recognize the gravitational wave signal, and we ask them to recognize, to look for examples of that same glitch in what we call auxiliary channels, which are taken from various points around the interferometer. Obviously, we have thousands of different channels recorded at different frequencies constantly. But being able to match the glitch in these different auxiliary channels gives us a helping hand in understanding potential sources of noise. So they are asked to recognize, they're given different representations of the signals and so on, of the data at the same time, and they're asked to try and help us classify them in that way. Next project that we've developed is the Deep Sea Explorers project, which uses data from the KM3-NET collaboration. KM3-NET collaboration has 2 neutrino detectors at the bottom of the Mediterranean, and they use these digital optical modules, these DOMs as they call them, to study Cherenkov radiation. So here we can see how these things are, these digital optical modules are laid out at the bottom of the Med. They're set up in these forests at the bottom of the sea, and they sit there, or are chained there all together. And let's see if we can make this play properly. But they sit there, and they measure the Cherenkov radiation, which is a light which is provoked by the passage of a charged particle, like an electron, through a medium, in this case the seawater, at a velocity which is higher than the phase velocity of light. So it provokes this kind of light, which these DOMs are then able to recognize. So these two fields of digital optical modules are located in two locations in the Med. So one is 20 kilometers to the south of Toulon, in the south of France, and another is 40 kilometers to the south of Sicily, right off the very foot, where you can see Catania there. So there's Capo Passero right at the very foot of Sicily, and there is the ARCA detector out there. And these are installed via these loading object modules, as they call. They're sort of loaded into these spheres, dropped to the bottom of the sea, lowered to the bottom of the sea, and then they are allowed to return to the surface, and they distribute the DOMs as they go. So I've got some footage here, which hopefully can show you this. They're lowered to the bottom of the sea, released, and they roll back up to the surface, and they release these digital optical modules as they go. So there's just a nice example there of one of these digital optical modules, or DOMs, chained to the all chained up and ready to go. And there's one in situ at 3,000 meters deep, recording this information. So what did we do with the data from KM3Net? Well, we set up two workflows, as they're called in Zooniverse. One related to bioluminescence and one related to bioacoustics. So these are objects which are recording light. Obviously, at that depth, you're hoping that there's not much environmental light around, but there is some which is produced in the form of bioluminescence by various different creatures, and which kind of dirties slightly the data that we have for the detectors. So we ask volunteers to contribute to the project by helping to recognize these forms of bioluminescence. So by teaching them how to understand where they appear in the data, due to the number of peaks that may appear over a specific number of time, we can interpret those to understand whether it's they're sort of being formed sporadically by bioluminescence in the local environment, and so volunteers help by classifying that. In addition, around the detectors we have hydrophones, so there's underwater microphones, and volunteers are also tasked with helping us to better understand the local environment. So we have marine biologists who are involved in the research team as well, and volunteers are asked to look at and to listen to the signals as they are they're provided, and to help us to understand whether those signals are coming from a sperm whale or short fin pilot whale, or etc., in order to help us better understand the local environment at the bottom of the sea surrounding the detectors. Third project that we have is the new particle search at CERN, which is developed using data from the ATLAS detector at the Large Hadron Collider. And we have a team who have developed, let's say, a more complex project, but ultimately one which has been very, very engaging for volunteers. It's separated out across different workflows, or stages as they refer to them in the project here. And volunteers are essentially asked to help to identify the signatures of long-lived particles. So they're given different topological representations of the various elements of the detector, and they are asked to recognize and identify and highlight these so-called displaced vertices, which are left through the thanks to the passage of the different particles through the different areas of the detector. So they'll have to draw onto the screen the different areas that they, the different lines that they recognize, these different vertices that they are able to distinguish. And as they move through the project, they move into an aspect which is very innovative for a Zooniverse project, in that they actually, the more complex the actions become, they end up having to move out of Zooniverse and into an entirely bespoke application set up by the IAZA team in Athens to allow them to undertake some really quite complex calculations and a series of tasks which become which are not straightforward, and they've developed around this project a very keen core group of volunteers who have become very well informed and have become very close to the research team themselves. Beyond that, we have our fourth demonstrator project, which is Cosmic Muon Images, and which is developed using data from a diaphragm detector, which muon detector, which has been recording data in different periods, and the workflow that we have set up so far has been based around the usage of data recorded from a tumulus in Greece in 2019, I'm going to say, but I might be wrong with the date. But it's not too important. But what do volunteers do in this project? They are asked to identify the passage of particles through the different levels of the detector. So they are given a 3D representation, and they are asked to try and recognize to draw onto the screen the passage of a particle as it passes through those different layers. And they're giving, alongside that, they're given a two-dimensional representation of the different layers as well to help them understand. Beyond that, I'm going to stop talking a moment and pass the floor to Francesco, but I just want to mention, I mean, we've done a lot of different things in the project beyond the 4 demonstrator projects. Beatrice will tell us a little later about the work that's gone into sonification, the development of the Sono web tool, which has been a key innovative deliverable of the project, and is now fully available and online. And I won't go into great detail now, because Beatrice will be able to tell us all about it. But they've also the team in Argentina have also developed a series of resources. They've been very, very busy in engaging with people as well. Just a couple of photos here you can see of kids involved in helping them to develop the application, because all of their development is based on user testing, user feedback. So they have different groups with whom they've worked for that. We have a powerful citizen engagement strategy, which Manolis will be able to tell us about shortly. I won't go into detail, but it's involved around these 5 levels, these 5 key levels of informing, involving, collaborating, consulting, and empowering. So he'll be able to tell us about that later. So in terms of informing, we've done a lot of activities, attended a lot of conferences. We've done a lot of training courses in terms of involving. Collaborating, there have been all kinds of challenges that have taken place. Consulting, again, there's been a lot of back and forth and feedback with different volunteer communities. And in terms of empowering as well, I'll let Manolis give more information on that shortly. We've put in place a critical and scientific thinking course, which was launched by the Nobel Prize winner Saul Perlmutter, and subsequently developed here at ERGO recently. We've been involved in very many artistic conferences. The Reinforcers sat really at the nexus of art and science in many respects. And we've been involved in a number of important installations. we've on a more local, well, I say local, but it's really on a less international level in some degrees, let's say. We've set up a couple of art and science contests for kids from 4 to 12 years of age, and then from 12 to 18. And they were a lot of fun, and we were very engaging for people. And, we aimed them at these two different bands, and we ended up with, this was our winner for the 4 to 12 section, who was from a young artist from Bahrain. And then from the 13 to 18 section, this was ultimately our winner. Another innovative aspect of the project has been a course that we've developed on physics for senior citizen scientists, which was run essentially by EGO and the University of Pisa. And we've done this with a local group here in Cascina, near to Pisa, not far from where the Virgo Director is located. And that was a big success. And beyond the life of the project, we will continue to exploit that. And we have we've developed a program again, which has already begun for this academic year, which will involve with the same group, one course of roughly an hour a month. That's been a lot of fun. Just a couple of photos of when they came to visit us on site. Okay, so we've got various elements then as well of our dissemination, so to do with social media, various dissemination activities, lots of synergies that have been developed and so on. There have been a lot of collaborations built up with relevant stakeholders. I won't go through them all. You can see there that just how many there are. Our social media has been very active, so I encourage you to go and have a look. There's a lot of nice information there. We've put together a series of webinars as well, which are all available on our website, with other roundtables and workshops and so on in the past. Also appeared on the BBC Sky at Night. We've been quite active in terms of sort of broad dissemination activities in general. Just a few examples of when we've been to visit people, or people have come to visit us. There's a whole element of the project as well, which has involved the actual evaluation of understanding how effective our different strategies have been, and we have various deliverables that have either been published in relation to this or are due to be published very shortly. So that's there's a lot of information there for people to draw on. Just slightly more from the evaluation there. Okay, so that's me done. I thank you for your time, and I hope I've given you some background for the project. I see that there are a couple of questions in the chat. Okay, so for now it's just Francesco. So at this point, Francesco, I'll pass the ball to you, and you can tell us about the roadmap.
Thank you, Gary. Sorry for my voice. I'm a little sick. I don't have COVID. Don't worry. It's just the normal, normal flu. Okay, so my name is Dr. Francesco Moredu, and I am Senior Director at the Lisbon Council, a think tank based in Brussels. And I've been mostly engaged in the work package elaborating the sustainability plan and the roadmap. So basically, the roadmap, which is due by the end of the month, which is going to be finished, I promise, by the end of the week. So the roadmap basically wants to give some recommendations about how to involve citizens in large research infrastructure. So how to perform citizen science in that regard. So the questions that the roadmap I wanted to answer, and that will answer, is basically what is the value added of citizen science, which is a broad, let's say, question also in other parts of the project. What are the bottlenecks and gaps that have to be addressed in order to mainstream citizen science in research infrastructure, especially for what concerns the incentives for citizens, the attribution of scientific research results, mainstreaming of common approaches, data quality and interoperability, and finally, what are the policies that should be put in place to foster the implementation of citizen science in research infrastructures. So this is a sketch of the methodology for developing the roadmap. So starting from the project results and lessons learned, we elaborated a set of drivers and barriers, and then a set of policy objectives. Those policy objectives have been matched with respect to existing policy measures in order to devise policy gaps and policy challenges. Then, starting with the policy challenges, we had a lot of input in the workshops. Of course, the last one in Pisa at the beginning of the month. A lot of input from the advisory committee. A lot of input from other experts that are part of the community, and also a lot of input from partners in order to elaborate the recommendations, which will be finalized in a matter of days. So this is the structure of the roadmap. So clearly, the first part is the methodology. So what is a road mapping exercise? What is the methodology for the gap analysis? What input has been collected, like input from the researcher, from events, input from the roadmap in commentable format. So the roadmap, part of the roadmap has been presented in commentable format through a tool called Making Speech Talk, so that interested people were able to input their inputs and their feedback. And then, as I said, we elaborated lessons learned from the project, identification of gaps, policy challenges. Finally, we structured the roadmap with recommendations for follow-up actions. We are not sure if to keep this structure recommendation at EU level, national, regional level, but probably we are going to do just a set of policy recommendations overall. And then we also discussed, let's say, action plans for implementation, challenges and opportunities, and a final feasibility analysis. So for what concerns the policy objectives, we have a set of 14 policy objectives. Those are, I can give now just some examples that they will be obviously free to be consulted in the roadmap. For instance, support access to open access to open and cloud-based solutions for advanced computing and data analytics in research and innovation, or support establishment and enlargement of an open data space for scientists and citizen scientists. We talk about standards, and we talk about facilitating collaboration between researcher and citizen scientists. Other interesting are, for instance, increase the IT literacy for citizens that can be interested in science and in citizen science in general, or to make citizen science more inclusive by promoting gender balance. This is also one of the topics that is then addressed in, let's say, new calls of Horizon Europe that will be published very soon. Other final, let's say, policy objectives on the development of an impact assessment framework, show the effectiveness of this citizen science, or raise awareness among citizens and scientists and scientific community regarding the significant contributions that citizens can provide in collecting valuable evidence for instance, for measuring impact indicators. So some of these policy objectives were also the objectives of the project, and have been fulfilled by the projects itself. Then we elaborated a set of policy challenges and mapped with respect of the policy objectives. Also in this case, going through weekly policy challenges, for instance, about data quality and management. In fact, we have the creation of large data sets that should be through, let's say, monitoring, observing, and crowdsourcing, which it opens some series of implications. Although data harmonization is one of the challenge, because we have data collected for specific purposes. We have administration and governance challenges regarding to funding citizen science, for instance, that is different funding needs when compared with traditional scientific projects. Inclusion and diversity, of course, this is also one of the core, let's say, objectives of the project, was to boost as much as possible inclusion. In fact, there has been a lot of work related to obviously to help underserved communities to get access to citizen science projects and experiments. Co-creation is also one of the policy challenges related with the fact that citizen science it's really the highest degree of citizen participation into scientific research, because it entails a real research carried out also by citizens. Final policy challenges like what we spoke about before. So the existence of formal, the necessity to boost formal and informal learning environments, or, for instance, the project evaluation. For what concerns the policy recommendations, they are a set of about 15. Okay, there are some questions. Maybe we can answer the questions later after I finished. So, for instance, introducing citizen science in educational strategy. So this entails, let's say, try to introduce citizen science into schools and into universities, where science education is taught, where science is taught. Boosting, of course, evaluation and monitoring of citizen science. And in fact, in our project, there is a work package. There are several tasks that are basically pushing in that direction, including educators in program design, community establishment, scale up, sustain, and engagement. In that regard, I mean, it's very important. It's core that the communities that are created through citizen science are somehow sustained and engaged. So there is the need for a continuous engagement of those communities. Here, very important are, for instance, prioritizing STEM in education. In fact, only if science, technology, mathematics are pushed in education, then citizen science itself, especially in research infrastructure, will be pushed downstream. And this will be done also promoting exchanges of best practices and increasing, for instance, the funding. And what is important here is also try to have a kind of a gender balance. In fact, basically the idea is to try to push as much as possible participation of females to STEM education, and then to push the females to pursue scientific careers. Other interesting recommendation that came out also during the workshop in Pisa are the necessity to have new rules of attribution of scientific discoveries. In fact, citizen scientists are, let's say, involved in let's say, are involved in elaborating research. So, I mean, this has to be recognized. And also the fact that, also the establishment of citizen science scientific journals would be important in that sense. Also, boosting the European Open Science Cloud is an important topic because it would be possible, let's say, and let's say useful to support to push the creation of an open cloud data space for citizen science at EU level in the European Open Science Cloud. Final recommendations, clear boosting skill on citizen science in order to let's say help citizens in being interested to citizen science initiatives, but also increase the awareness among scientists on let's say on the extent of to what extent citizen science might be useful for them. Support funding in this sense. The European Commission in Horizon Europe does not have anymore the SWOFS, Science Written for Society line of funding, but there is the WIDERA line of funding, which is interesting for citizen science. And finally, to involve clearly policymakers through all the projects' life cycles. Finally, we have continued to pursue and encourage diversity, which is what we have been doing with the project so far, and what we are going to do also after the end of the project. And finally, evaluation. So talking about the development of let's say of meta-evaluation of citizen science impact assessment frameworks and tools. So this is just, in a few minutes what the roadmap is about, and we are going to have a final version by the end of the month, freely available, so that for us the debate will be only a start, because there will be new projects in the future.
Thanks very much for that, Francesco. So there have already been a few questions on the Q&A. I invite anybody who's following to feel free to post them, and we'll answer them as soon as we can, hopefully during the talk. So I'll just go through them. So in terms of the availability of the slides that have been presented here, these will be made available, as Francesco has replied. These will be made available on our webpage in the next 48 hours, so you'll be able to get access to them there. And here we have another question. So are these policy recommendations available, for example, in a deliverable? If yes, please provide a link.
Yeah, in a few days, the document will be available, and we will send it to everybody, of course, to all the attendees today, but it's going to be available erga omnes.
Yeah, that deliverable is one of the key deliverables of the project, so that's due to arrive soon. So thanks, Francesco. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to open our roundtable session, and I would like to pose a couple of questions. Again, please feel free to make any comments in the chat or pose any questions that you would like answered. But the first question I would like to aim at Manolis Chaniotakis, who has been working over the last 3 years on our work package 8, which has been to do with engagement and participation. And Manolis, simple question, maybe requiring probably a very complex and long answer, but how do you maintain and retain interest and involvement in citizen science projects?
This is a quite hard question, Gary. First of all, there are multiple factors that someone needs to take into account. The first one is the appeal of the project itself, meaning the content and the science behind it. And of course, the way that the science is presented, and perhaps the time correlation between the launching of the project and perhaps a Nobel Prize, let's say. So these are things that affect the launch of the project. in order to, from our experience, and in order to keep our community engaged, we need to continuously be there for them. So this is, and I think I definitely see Angela in the team here of attendees, so she might be able to tell us. She was a participant in the summer school. So the first thing is that, let's say, a community needs to be built, and the community means that both researchers and citizen scientists dedicate some time for a productive dialogue. And to that, Theodore and Massimiliano might be able to tell you much, much more. From our part, we need to offer the science in a coherent, understandable way, in tasks that are not very difficult to discourage people, but not that easy in order to be like, you know, a playground. And beyond that, one needs to keep triggering the community, you know, offering opportunities to go deeper, to go beyond, offering challenges. And in order, let's say, to build a stronger community of committed participants. And on the other hand, one needs to reach out to be as inclusive as possible, to reach out to new audiences, find ways to, you know, change the barriers into enablers. So, for example, what Beatrice and her team are doing, meaning that we're actually, through sonorization, we're reaching out to a new audience, and we're all trying to offer an equal opportunity. So you focus, on one hand, you focus on activities that will, you know, strengthen the ties of the community, will immerse participants more, will give them motivation to produce more scientific output, like challenges, for example. And on the other hand, you organize activities that, you know, have a broader reach in order to invite more people to participate and join you. So these are, I think, the most important parts here.
What have you? Thanks for that, Manolis. What have you been able to identify in these projects as the most significant barriers to access, do you think?
The most significant barriers. This is actually a very good question. Again, this might differ from project to project. Rainforest is a research project, and our main goal was to understand our community, to understand who they are, what motivates them, and how we can be more efficient in including them from one hand and increasing scientific output on the other hand. So I would say that this was a road full of barriers, and, but also full of enablers. We needed to constantly monitor engagement and constantly find, okay, when people stop classifying, why do they do that? We need to join and to mitigate the actions. The coordination, I think, the most difficult part that we had to, let's say, face was that coordination, very strong coordination, was required from different stakeholders. And this was difficult and very rewarding because we succeeded in that in Rainforest, meaning that the research team needed to be there to support, and they did it. The engagement team needed to be there to support, and they did it. The sonorization team needed to be there, and they did it. So the success of a citizen science project requires cooperation, and this is a hard part, but I think we were successful.
Thanks, Manolis. Very interesting. Again, just before I move on to the next question, because I want to move on to a slightly different topic, but before I do, just a reminder that if anybody wants to post any comments or questions, then please feel free. We'll certainly pick those up. Now, the next question I would like to ask, to the two members of the project research teams that we have with us today. So of the 4 demonstrator projects, 2 of them are represented here in the form of Massimiliano and Theodore. So Massimiliano was been the lead for the Witch Hunters project, and Theodore has been doing so much work on cosmic muon images. And so the question, which I'll first put to Massimiliano, and then I'll pass it to you, Theodore, is how do you design a successful citizen science project in a large research infrastructure from your point of view?
Well, thank you, Gary. This is a very interesting question. And this was basically the question that asked ourselves when we started with this project. I think that based on our experience with Witch Hunters, I think that's the first step is to try to understand what are the most compelling science goals that we wanted to convey with this demonstrator and with this project. In the case of gravitational wave, we strive to show to the citizens how important was the study of the background noise, because this is really where the science is. And so starting from this idea, we try to convert this idea into some tasks that could be easy to perform on a platform like Zooniverse, and so we try to analyze in a more detailed what were the most important aspects of the noise that we wanted to study. For gravitational wave, we also had the experience of our fellow project, Gravity Spy. So we tried to learn from that experience and try to prepare something that was complementary to what Gravity Spy was doing. And that's where we came out with the tasks that we have in Witch Hunters. So I think first of all is to have something that is compelling. Second is something that is clear, like a clear target, clear goal. And third one is something that is easy to do on a, say, citizen science platform base. So I think these are the three main aspects that we kept into consideration in designing this demonstrator.
Thanks very much, Max. I'd highlight there the importance of making things very clear. I think that's maybe something that we can come back to in a moment, because I think that the importance of using accessible language and what do I mean by accessible and so on, we can discuss shortly, but I think it's a very important point as well. Theodore, can you give us your perspective on that?
Yes. So yeah, I really try to understand what one considers to be success, because okay, if you take it in the very narrow perspective of achieving your scientific goal, achieving what you wanted to understand from your project, then of course this is a measure, but there are also other things that you need to understand as a success. And success is that you are reaching out to people and you are making them do work that they haven't done before, that you are making them see in practical terms what is your scientific endeavor and what is the issues that you face as a scientist. So, of course, if you are a very large research infrastructure, I would expect that your research project is a very good and so in a solid base foundation, has a solid foundation. But the next step toward success is how you incorporate your citizen science project in your other activities. So if someone just takes what was happening in Rainforest with all the the activities and all the virtual visits, and to try to find ways to put the citizen science project in these activities, then I believe that the participation is going to be not an issue, and you are going to have indeed a very successful project. So this is because we are the smallest of the projects in from these 4 demonstrators. This is something that we were missing. We would like to have this large infrastructure behind us in order to be able to do much more things than what we did, not with respect to the scientific goals, but with respect to the side projects that we believe are maybe more important than the scientific goal itself. So this is my perspective on that.
So you feel that the side projects are more effective ultimately for a smaller project like yours than I'm just trying to make sure I've understood correctly. So because Cosmic Muon Images is slightly like you said, doesn't have the large research infrastructure behind that the other 3 do.
Yeah.
And so in your case, you feel that the sort of the smaller side projects that develop along with the main project can be as beneficial.
I believe that the brand name of your infrastructure plays a very significant role to how people perceive your project and how willing they are to oversee some of your flaws, let's say. So, but it is a discussion that I believe also the roadmap addresses, and it is that how a large research infrastructure is going to have a separate, let's say, function within it to think about potential citizen science project based on what they see within the collaboration. So this is what I believe.
Yeah, very interesting. Thanks, Theodore. Okay. At that point, then I would like to move on to a different question, which this time I would like to ask to Beatrice. And you remember that Beatrice has been working as part of the team working on sonification and the development of Sono Uno. And so, Beatrice, my question to you is, from your point of view, how do you build a community of volunteers, participants? How do you build a community that is diverse?
Hello, can you hear me? Now I think we have a community, not a big one, but we need to grow in this sense the participation of the people, because our participation in Rainforce is a bit different than the others, the demonstrators, for example. We are in charge of a transversal project to propose a new way to approach the nature. It means, in general, the science is devoted to produce images and visualizations. And the idea is to permit the people who cannot see, mainly, to access the same thing, the same tools and the same possibilities to be part of the scientific project or a citizen science project like Rainforce. In this sense, we begin in this organization, this big group of 4 demonstrators, because we had a very, very draft version of a sonorization proposal based in the user-centered design. It means trying to offer a tool developed with the help of the users. And in this sense was very interesting because our first step was to understand the demonstrators, to sonorize the data. And after that, to offer the tool to the rest of the volunteers in Rainforest. So it was a very interesting road to follow. We followed. And now we have some volunteers, not only for sonorization, but also to offer all the tools in different languages. Because when we talk about inclusion, normally the inclusion is connected with any disability. But part of the inclusion is also to have all the tools, all the resources, all the opportunities accessible for any country. And well, as you know, the English is the common language, the more or less common language right now, but not all the people speak English. So as part of our summer school, the last summer school, we also realized that we have volunteers all over the world. And now we are improving our development, the Sono Uno software, which is not only a user-centered development for the beginning or from the beginning, but also is a multi-platform, completely open source tool. And because of that, we are trying to generate a server, an accessible tool for everyone from everywhere, and to offer the tools. Without volunteers, it's impossible to improve this kind of proposal, the open sources development, like the software. And in the case of the inclusion, if you permit to me, I will share just one slide that we love a lot, which is this one. Permit me to put this in this way. I changed a little because we are now in the football way, but as you can see, is the inclusion is more than give all the tools. You can give the tools, and also we can distribute the tools according the different approaches to the nature, and you can assure equity. But to talk about inclusion, you need to remove all the barriers. And is what we try to do with Sono Uno, with our participation in Rainforest and with the volunteers in the project.
Thanks, Beatrice. So, considering that, Beatrice, how important do you think that the concept of co-design is?
It's very important, mainly because you can access the Sono Uno scripts. It means you have the possibility to improve the scripts, to improve the software, to change the software, and to offer a better product to the others. So the co-creation is part of the methodology in open sources development in general. So for us, it's one of the most important things, the co-creation, to have a better tool, a better offer, and to permit the people be part, as the name indicates, be part of the proposal. In this sense, I must say that this is the science today. It's not just for education, not just for outreach, it's also for research. Without this kind of approach, it's impossible to grow in science because the data are a lot. The challenge are very big, very, very big, and we need more people. Not all the people will have the opportunity to be a scientist, but there are a lot of citizens with the feeling of the science, with the passion for the science, and we need all of them.
Thanks, Beatrice. Thanks very much. In relation to that, so in relation to the concept of co-design, I think there's an interesting point, an interesting discussion point to be had, which I'll bring back to Theodore and to Massimiliano in terms of community building. So you have been able to build communities of volunteers, of participants in your projects, thanks to the work of Manolis and the team at EA who have developed all of their engagement activities. But there is also an important aspect in the form of the talk facility, the talk forum facility on Zooniverse. How important has that talk functionality been for the success of your projects, of building communities in your projects? I'll give that one to you, Theodore, first.
So, the talk boards are very important, and it is very important because you are communicating with people that are giving their time, and they are also giving feedback, and they want to see how you behave and how you manage all these responsibilities. The experience is, for me at least, very positive because since my attitude is for people to learn while I'm writing, we have fruitful discussions on the demonstrator. Similar discussions, as you said, Gary, that we had during the events that Manolis organized for us. So, in principle, the talk is very similar to how people behave, so either in person or through the talk. The community building is a question mark for me, because I don't know how long last is going to be. During my experience with a demonstrator, all these months, I felt this unity with the people that are helping us. It remains to see how this continues on through time.
Thanks, Theodore. Massimiliano?
Yeah, well, I think that having the possibility of using the talk features on Zooniverse, I think it helped very much, because it is a sort of, sequel of what we discussed during this event, communication events, engagement events that Manolis put together, because they basically establish a continuous place where we can continuously discuss about various things. And this is also a place where we can communicate the results that we got, news, and also where we can, news about activities or, challenges and so on. And also it's a great place to offer challenges to the citizens. So definitely, I think that the forum helped a lot in order to create a community that is growing.
Thanks, Massimiliano. We have a question from, I believe, forgive me if I mispronounce this, but I think from Git Krag. Apologies if I pronounced that poorly. So regarding our participants, so will our demonstrator projects continue on Zooniverse after Reinforce ends? It's a really important question, I think. And if not, will participants be encouraged to participate in other Zooniverse citizen science projects? And do you think they would? And why? Why not? So I'll provide my initial response to this, and then I will pass it on to the other participants. Now, I think the answer differs slightly for each of the 4 different projects. The one which I am most closely linked to, it obviously is the Gwitch Hunters, part of the research team of the project, and we are actively looking to see, exploring possibilities of using some of the resources of the Virgo collaboration. And the Virgo collaboration is a scientific collaboration of more than 800 people across Europe. So we're looking at ways in which we can get people involved somehow in that. Regarding the other 3 projects, I mean, Theodore will speak for Cosmic Muon Images. Sadly, we don't have representatives from the other 2 here today to answer, but certainly there is the intention to maintain these projects as far as possible, to continue to exploit them. Certainly, Manolis has a great deal of hope that we will continue to exploit them for the purposes of continued promotion of participation and participant engagement. Regards the encouragement to participate in other Zooniverse or citizen science projects, certainly from the Gwitch Hunters perspective, we have a kind of cousin project, which is Gravity Spy, which is developed by the LIGO scientific collaboration. And we already have some crossover of volunteers between the 2. And what we've found as well is that many volunteers, sorry, I shouldn't use the word users, but many volunteers who come to participate in the projects are often already participating in other Zooniverse projects as it is. So I think an area which could be very interesting for us to explore in the longer term is to identify particularly new volunteers who come to Zooniverse specifically via our projects, to see how they continue to engage with us in the longer term, but also to see how they continue to engage with Zooniverse in the form of other projects. But I will pass this question first on to Theodore. So Theodore, in terms of Cosmic Muon Images, what do you think?
Yes, actually, yesterday, now that we were discussing about the talk, we had this question on the talk board on what is the future with the data, and if there is a finish line for this project. This is the answer is the following. We have 2 more data sets that are currently active, and probably this is going to take up a couple of months, if I understand correctly the participation. After that, we are going to upload data in these 2 workflows that we have from a volcano in Iceland, which is the volcano from where you were going in the center of the Earth in the Jules Verne novel. And we think this is another step, because, and I'm sorry that I'm taking all this time, but one of the problems that we had was that we have so many applications for muon tomography, and because of the structure of the site, we could only extensively refer to the archaeological tomography. So we want to start expand to the other applications as well. And the other thing is that we need at some point to see how we will create 2 new workflows to start testing our reconstruction, our imaging algorithms for tomography, which is, okay, it's a lot of work, but this is the plan. We continue with these 2 workflows for the next 6 months, and then we will try to go to new workflows.
Thanks, Theodore. Massimiliano?
Well, actually, yeah, you basically have, you already answered. Yeah, the idea is that, yeah, we would like to keep it going. We are interacting with our colleagues, as you said, of Gravity Spy. So definitely the idea would be to continue and to offer new challenges as well.
Okay, thanks, Max. So I hope that that's answered to some degree answered the question. If possible, Manolis, have you got a good connection with us at the moment? I'm not sure Manolis has a problem with his connection, so it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm assuming that the answer to that is no. Okay, another question that I wanted to bring to the floor was something that I highlighted earlier in terms of the issue of as Max mentioned before, clarity and clarity of language and making language accessible. Now, the Gwitch Hunters project in particular was something of a precursor in this sense, in that it was the first of the 4 projects to provide a version of the text of the project in a language that was not English. So the documentation was translated into Italian, and we've subsequently Beatrice and her team have worked very hard on also providing Spanish versions. Some of the projects are now available also in Greek as well. Massimiliano, what do you think how fundamentally important do you think the translation, the making available of the project in different languages is?
I think that having such a translation, it's a great help for our citizens, especially because when we're dealing with countries where English is not let's say the most widely language, or is not the main language, what happens is that having the translation help really to reach everybody, which means younger people, which means as well older people. What we did for, as you were mentioning before, is try to translate the demonstrator in different languages. And what we saw is that when we were able to create a copy of the project accessible in various languages, this helped a lot in order to have a higher achievement and higher level of engagement in that particular country. And so we really believe that this could be very important if we wanted to engage more and more, because otherwise there are people that are not familiar with English, and they simply cannot understand what they're supposed to do in this demonstrator, in this project. Also because in some cases, before actually doing something, you need to read some material, and some tutorial, for example. And if you're not familiar in a good level of English, this might be complicated. So, or this might give rise to some, misunderstanding, and so these will bias what you're doing with the project. So it's very important to have a clear explanation about what citizens should do, and in this way, having this can have this twofold, achievement. In one way, to engage more people, to engage people belonging to different, range of, ages, experience, etc. And on the other side, to reduce possible biases related to misunderstanding in the language. So I think this is very important, and we're very happy to have done this.
Thanks, Max. That's very clear. I'd like to briefly have a look as well at one more issue, and this is something that I think I would like to ask to Francesco Mureddu, and it relates to the fact that obviously Reinforce began on the 1st of December 2019, and we had a collaboration meeting. We all attended. We met in person. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and all of our plans, as everybody's plans the world over, had to be thrown in the bin and started again. So, or at least recycled, let's say. Now, Francesco, from the point of view of, you're writing the policy roadmap. Now, do you think that virtual communities can function as effectively as physical communities?
The more technology advances, the more the difference between online and offline gets narrow. Still, there is a kind of part of tacit knowledge, let's say, that is very difficult to vehiculate online. Also because we also understand some hints that are more, let's say, related to the body, the way that people move. But I think that online tools, digital tools, help a lot. Meeting live every now and then, so having a kind of a hybrid setup in which you meet, let's say 10% of the time live would help, of course, even though the pandemic has really boosted a lot the development of digital tools. So let's say that from one side, digital tools allow people that is very, very far away to participate, which otherwise would not have probably the means to participate. And they are not completely total substitutes, but they are a great help.
Thanks, Francesco. Yeah, I think I find myself in complete agreement with that. Okay. I think that more or less we have, we have concluded our roundtable session at this moment. I think we're on schedule more or less. So I would just like to run through a few sort of closing thoughts to conclude the session. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody who's participated. Francesco Simanti for the work with Trust IT. Has done a great job all the way through the project in handling so many different tasks, not just the dissemination stuff. There's been so much work on graphic design and on great organizational skills as well that have been really important. To Francesco Mureddu, who's been quietly working away behind the scenes on the policy roadmap all the way through the last 3 years, and contributing as well beyond that in work package 10, the dissemination. And obviously to Theodore and Max, who've done a great job on developing their projects. We were, unfortunately, we didn't have the chance to have members of the other demonstrator projects with us today, but certainly Gwen Halder de Vassage at UC Louvain has done a fantastic job there, bringing the project into to life, and also we're missing our work package 5, the new particle search at CERN team. So that's Christine Korkomelis, Stelios Angelodakis, and Stelios Vorakis, who have worked so hard on that project to try and bring very, very complex concepts to make them as accessible as possible. Also, should make a special mention to another work package 3 at Witch Hunters, a team member that we don't have with us today, and that's Francesco Di Renzo, who's worked extensively as well with Max on not only developing the project, but also on engaging with people locally and internationally to promote it. We have, of course, Manolis with us as well, Manolis Chaniotakis, who's done all of this work on identifying and developing engagement strategies, and continues to work so hard in that area. And we sadly didn't have the opportunity to have either Claudia Magdalene Fabian or Elizabeth Unterfrauner from ZSI in Austria, who've done so much work in the evaluation work package of the project, and are still continuing to do the work now. Obviously, this is an important period for the evaluation. And I would like to also say a big thank you to Beatrice, who's been a constant throughout the project, working on the sonification work package. A lot of work being going on there, a lot of getting up very early in the morning to attend meetings, and promoting Reinforce in South America, all across South America. We've been very privileged, I think, in that sense, to have somebody so capable to help us there. And I can't not mention at this point either Francesca Spagnuolo and the project coordinator Stavros Katsanevas, who Francesca has been our project officer and continues to drag us all across the line with to make sure that we meet the various deadlines that we need, and Stavros, who has been such an inspiring coordinator for us, and has had so many incredible ideas along the way. So I'd like to say thank you to all of you for taking part. I'd like to thank all of our attendees. It's been very kind of you to stay with us, to give us an hour and a half of your time on a Monday afternoon. I think it's Monday. So thank you to all of you. And so just my final thoughts in general. I mean, I've been the technical manager of Reinforce now for the last 3 years. So I've been there since the start. And I think my overriding thoughts on this project have been, we've talked about co-design. I think it's really important to know the community of people that you're working with. It's really important, I think, to try and create an environment for these projects in which people think that they understand that it's okay to ask questions, and it's okay to fail. That's part of the learning process with them. But it's also important, I think, to know how to engage with people. It's important to know, like I say, for example, the new particle search at CERN demonstrator project takes very complex ideas, but makes them accessible to people. And it's really that ability to render content and concepts and ideas that are complex understandable is really important. Beyond that, I think, you know, as with anything, it requires an investment of time and energy and effort and proper curation and to be successful. But it's also very important to recognize, I think, that when something's not working, that you know, certainly in the various, it's been the case with various elements of the project, that you invest time in something, you understand it's not working, and you have to go back to the drawing board. So that's been one of the lessons that I've learned working through this experience. So before concluding, I just open the floor. So if anybody would like to make any final concluding comments, then you know, please speak now or forever hold your peace. And I see no microphones opening. So in that case, I think I'll draw this session to a close. So thanks again to everybody for attending, and please, you know, following what we're doing. The Reinforce website is there. The social media, the Twitter feed and so on is all up and running, and you can get a lot of information from there. Get in touch, get involved. Thanks again.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.